Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly 40 days passed since the Black Saturday of the 7th of October, in which the most vicious and barbaric attack since the Holocaust was declared on Israel and its citizens by Hamas. At this moment, there are still 139 hostages held by Hamas. Young children and babies are among them. While Israeli main military efforts are focused in the Gaza Strip, it seems that the northern border is heating up, as earlier this week, Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant warned Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah that the terror organization's actions are leading to war. A clear escalation was registered this week between Israel and Hezbollah, as anti-tank missile was fired by Hezbollah at Moshav Dovev, and 15 rockets were later on launched as well. The question now is, how will Israel react to these ongoing attacks, in which heavier explosives were also used, a situation which clearly asks for a change in reaction. What and how wide this reaction will be from the Israeli side is left to be seen. We wish to discuss the current situation in the north today with Orna Mizrahi, senior researcher at the Institute for National Security Studies. Orna previously served as Deputy National Security Advisor for Foreign Policy and led strategic planning on regional and international policy on behalf of the National Security Council for the Prime Minister and Israeli Security Cabinet. Good morning, Orna. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Adi.
Orna, so the first question, maybe you can briefly describe the characteristics of the fighting on the Lebanese border from the side of Hezbollah from 7th of October until today. How would you characterize the fighting?
Okay, first, I think it's important to remember that it was Hezbollah that initiated the attack on Israel on October the 8th, a day after the murderous attack by Hamas. And since then, it's almost 5 weeks. Every day, there have been exchange of fire between Israel and Hezbollah at various levels, and with a trend of escalation. Until even we had a few days, and you have described one of them as if it's a mini war. And anyway, till now, it is limited military conflict below the threshold of war, when Hezbollah is careful not to end up in a full-scale war. Hezbollah focuses the attacks on the areas near the border, claims to mainly attack military targets, and uses means of warfare for relatively short ranges. At the same time, the Palestinian factions, especially Hamas in Lebanon, are also operating for southern Lebanon, and Hezbollah allows them to fire rockets at slightly longer ranges at the civilian Israeli population. So there is a division of work between them. The IDF, for its part, reacts firmly. It damages the organization's infrastructure and causes many casualties. So far, Hezbollah admits to have in the death of 74 of its operatives, but we suppose there are more than that. And the fighting continues.
What do you think motivated Hezbollah to join the war from the beginning? Who pulls the strings there? Is it Hezbollah? Is it Iran? What motivated them?
I think it's a combined decision. Hezbollah claimed it was an act of solidarity with the struggle of the Palestinian people, but it seems that its initiative to attack from Lebanon serves the organization on several levels. First, it's important to understand that this expresses the close coordination and cooperation between all the elements of the resistance front, as they call themselves, led by Iran against Israel. And it seems that the decision to open another front was made in coordination with Iran and the other members of the resistance front, with the intention to help Hamas by dragging the IDF to fight also on the Northern Front and other fronts. And this is the reason why the Houthis are launching rockets and UAVs from Yemen, and the militias, the Shiite militias in Syria are attacking Israel. Another reason is the desire to take advantage of the opportunity to change the balance of power between the IDF and Hezbollah and to try to prove the IDF weakness. But at this stage, at least, they are failing. And they have heavy losses, I must say.
So, Orna, we're clearly witnessing an escalation in the past 5 weeks and definitely in the past days. Do you think we're expecting a wider war? And also, what does it mean, a full-scale war? It's a question of definition, how Israel defines it, how Hezbollah defines it. I know that I heard sources in the past week saying that the war is inevitable. Is it really inevitable? What do you think? Your view on the situation?
Adi, this is the $1 million question. I think the assessment that neither Hezbollah nor Iran wants a full-scale war is still valid. But that doesn't mean we won't get there. Because we are in the midst of war, that mini war, as I said, that is going on. And the chance of full-scale war still exists as long as the war in Gaza continues.
Yes, this is clear.
Even in his recent speeches, Nasrallah leaves this question open. He wants all the options to be on the table. And I must say that in Israel, there are different opinions on this matter. There were those who claimed that at the beginning of the conflict, Israel should have launched a preemptive attack against Hezbollah, which is actually the greatest conventional threat to Israel. But this approach was not accepted, and the decision of both the political and the military leadership of Israel was to focus on fighting in Gaza. And what the IDF is doing is to respond in a limited but also fair manner on the Lebanese border and deal with the threat from Hezbollah at later time that we didn't fix yet, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So could you maybe elaborate on Hezbollah's considerations to enter, to enter a war on a greater scale, or also the considerations regarding Iran? Because we know what you of course said, the axis of resistance. There are interests here. There are considerations here. Where is Hezbollah and Iran located with regards to interests of entering a wider war? Also Iran.
I think, as I said, I believe that Hezbollah is not interested in war now, and I think that the Iranians are quite satisfied with the results of the 7th of October, and they would want that the ceasefire will start and the war will finish at that point. But let me elaborate the reasons, as I see it, why Hezbollah doesn't want to go into war. I think that the first is related, of course, to Iran, its patron, which wants to preserve Hezbollah's strengths as its insurance policy, and wants that Hezbollah will use all its power only in the event of attack on Iran. The second the second reason is related to the situation in Lebanon and the status of Hezbollah in Lebanon. As you know, and everybody knows, Lebanon is in a very severe economic and political crisis, and most of the elements in the country are very afraid that Hezbollah will drag them into another war with Israel. And they are against it. And we hear a lot about, a lot of voices from Lebanon against the possibility of having a war with Israel. Some even are saying it very openly, including the Taker Prime Minister Mikati that was talking about it in his meetings and openly on the media. The third reason is the position of the U.S. which immediately sided with Israel and warned Iran and Hezbollah not to start the war.
Yeah, we saw, of course, the aircraft carriers on their way to Israel in the very first minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a situation that we didn't know before. And I think it's because the Americans fear that this will lead to an outbreak of a regional war in which US will force to play a part, and they don't want it. By the way, for the same reason, the US also pressures Israel to avoid actions that can lead to escalation on the northern border, and the Israeli leadership has to pay attention for that.
Even though, by the way, Orna, we know there was a clear violation of UN Resolution 1701, that there are southern and Italian rivers. So this is a situation in which Israel, we're just about to reach also the next question about the Israeli strategy and the reaction. Well, I'll let you finish what you wanted to say and ask you about how will be the Israeli reaction to this violation that has been going on for years. For years, it's not new.
Yeah, but let me mention the last reason that I think it's important, although it's tactical, and it's the fact that Hezbollah has lost the element of surprise. The IDF is more ready and prepared than ever along the border. It mobilized reserve forces and evacuated the communities near the border, and this will make it difficult for Hezbollah to gain more achievements in this war if it opens.
So, taking under consideration the Israeli strategy, Orna, what should happen at the Lebanese border on the day after? I know this is a question that everybody's asking. What will be on the day after the war? 6 o'clock on the day after the war, the end of the war, or at least what would Israel like to see happening on the border? What do you think?
Yeah, this is more important for us, what Israel seeks to see on the border. And of course, much depends on how war in Gaza will end. It seems to me that Israel's main goal for the day after is to create a new reality along the border, and especially to push Hezbollah and other elements that attack Israel from there, from the border. This is very important to create a sense of security for the evacuated communities near the border and allow them to return to their homes. They are now spread all over Israel.
Exactly. We need to say to our audience that it's not only the Israeli population in the south are evacuated. It's also the ones who are living across the border and the northern border cannot live there at the moment. The ones who live between 0 to 5 kilometers cannot live there at the moment from the fear of attacks, of Hezbollah attacks. So there are refugees all over Israel at the moment.
Something like 60,000 Israeli citizens from the north are now not in their homes. And this is a very important thing, of course, that we have to take into consideration. And to achieve this goal, Israel will be required to take military action. And at the same time, it should also work to mobilize political support from the international community to help it to achieve this goal. And of course, the 1701 security resolution is not enough. It's no good. We have seen since 2006 that it's not working. And we'll have to find some other political solution as well as military actions that are, of course, needed to achieve this goal.
Yeah, I think the question, the biggest question is what will make citizens feel secure to return to their homes. This will be the test that Israel has to go through.
For the short range. For the long range, we'll have to see how we are going to deal with this threat that Hezbollah poses to Israel.
Yeah, this is clear. Orna Mizrahi, I want to thank you very, very much for enlightening us on this burning issue, the situation in the Northern Front. Let's hope that the days will remain quiet as much as possible and we won't see any further escalation. And thank you very much for our audience for watching the show and hearing us also on podcasts. Thank you very much and see you on the next program.
Thank you, Adi.